Howdy, 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 everybody, and welcome to the Circuit de Barcelona de Catalunya here for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. We are live here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Austin. I am joined by Yusuf bin Suhail, also known as Milky Zero, and in the production booth, it is Frederick Nixhill. Yusuf, how you doing?
I'm doing good, or at least I was doing better before the howdy, howdy, howdy. I heard you warming up your vocals with that. I didn't realize you were going to start the stream with that.
Surprise, surprise. This is your first time joining us in the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship in the commentary booth, so you can give all the fans a little bit of welcome yourself.
Yeah, hello to everyone. I'm very excited to see what these Formula 3.5 cars can be pulling out. Top split, and I'm very excited to see. I know you, Austin, you've been hyping up Tim Delisle for me a little bit. He's leading the championship by a massive margin and will be looking to continue to extend his lead at the top of the standings.
Yeah, he's leading by 100 points. In most of the streams that we've had, he's been sitting up there at the top and winning most of the races or finishing up there on the podium. Tim Delisle, number one car in the session, 7,920 I rating. He's on the edge of breaking 8,000, but he's not the only driver in the 7,000 club. We also got Manuel Domingo up there at 7,019.
Yeah, Manuel Domingo will be trying to challenge Tim Delisle, but in terms of the championships, it's Paul Ilbrink and Edward Samborski who are second and third, and don't count out the likes of Greg Olson. He's only done 7 of the 8 weeks so far, so he's still got a few more points he can add to his current tally.
Yeah, definitely. These drivers love to race with each other, but this is the top split race. The strength of field is absolutely insane here today. We are sitting at a 5.1k strength of field. So these guys are on another level.
Yeah, another level. Pretty much calls that. Something else to keep an eye on is Shane Russell, who he is the Australian, number 22 on the grid. He's currently leading the Division 2 standing, so he wants to be getting as many points as possible. Still a title on the available for him, and while it's not the Division 1 title, he'll be happy with picking up the Division 2 title nonetheless.
It definitely will be with his performance, he's going to be promoted up into Division 1 next season. I can guarantee you that. Shane Russell, driver for Downforce Racing DFR, in those beautiful black and chrome paint schemes they got going on right there.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely beautiful, and got a few more minutes of qualifying remaining.
3 minutes left here in qualifying. Delisle, Olsen, Campos, Samborski, and Honan, your current top 5.
Yeah, and we'll have to see whether anyone else can maybe challenge Delisle for that top spot at the minute. As usual, he is looking very, very fast, but only 600ths ahead of Greg Olson at the moment.
Samborski is going to stop it right there in turn 3. Looking around the field right now, let's take a look at James J. Pincer. He's sporting a new livery than his usual bright teal, bronze style colored of livery as he's making his way through the S's and up into Sector 2. Jose Pincer, a long-standing driver here in Formula 3.5 series, likes to been struggling with a few tracks and strength at other few tracks, and it's just been kind of unlucky so far this season, but looking to improve in these last few weeks here in the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. And Barcelona is a great track for everybody as James hops up into 8th place, 9/10 behind Tim Delisle.
Sorry, Austin, just experiencing a couple of difficulties. So you're going to have to command the ship just for a quick time being.
I'm always up for a good old challenge. So we take a look down at Paul Ilbrink, who just finished up his lap. He's sitting all the way down in 18th. Some of these drivers like Barcelona, some of them not a fan of it. I know it's a bit controversial if you're a Formula One fan. It's a fun track to test on. Racing on, not so much. There's opportunities to pass, and then there's not. The track kind of flows in a way where opportunities to overtake are very rare and limited, but are not limited to turn one, the long straight heading into that tight braking zone where the Circuit de Barcelona giant banner heading into the double Fs. That's a great braking zone. It's happened there. And then the chicane. You might see some interesting moves, but most people are not going to make an overtake there and just set up for that long straight.
Yeah, and there's quite a few big overtaking opportunities up part of me, especially turn one's going to be one of the biggest, and then heading down into turn 10. Big braking zone that the drivers will be really looking for.
And here is your starting grid. Tim Delisle takes pole position with his teammate Greg Olson right beside him, followed by Daniel Campos, Edward Samborski, Jose Longa, Steve Honan, Omar Baja, James J. Pinkster, Amal Yanes, Rob Crouch, Fabio De Camaro FC, and Theodore Burns in 12th place. Behind them is Manuel Domingo, Denny R. Calvo, Shane Russell, Renardo Augusto, Luke Groom, Paul Ilbrink, Duarte Priez, Rob Bohr, Juan Parada Jr., and Dan Giang at the back of the grid of this 22-car grid here for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship at Barcelona.
Yeah, gonna be a big race. And let's see if Tim Delisle can take the win. Starting on the front row of the grid, all Australian front row as well.
Yeah, the power duo of Delisle and Olsen, teammates. They've sat 1 and 2 on the grid a lot of times, and they've finished 1 and 2 a few races. I know Paul Ilbrink will get in there and poke his nose in there. I also know that Jose Longa, he's had a few strong races, especially at Circuit of the Americas, where he pulled that one off as well, as everyone is lined up and looking down the front straight and waiting for all the cars to get on the grid to see those beautiful 5 red lights. Because the heartbeats are rising and the reds are climbing, because the 5 red lights are coming on. And here we go racing for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship.
Here we go indeed. Delisle Olsen off the start. Let's see what they can do.
Delisle got a great start. Olsen sitting down to the inside. Right behind it, this Campos. Jose Playos Longa gets a good jump up onto the inside. This is his home track. We got cars all around it. It's a parking lot on the outside of the track. 3 cars involved. 4 cars along. 1 car turned around in turn 3.
Yeah. Tim Delisle still leading the way. Manuel Domingo right on his tail. And then you've got Paul Ilbrink in 3rd. Greg Olsen down in 4th.
Yeah, biggest mover so far, Omar Baja. He's jumped up 4 spots, but look at the gap between Delisle, Olsen, and Baja. It's already 2 seconds compared to the pack behind these 2 leaders. And that start was just insane. Multiple cars involved. I'm spotting about 5 cars maybe turned around and being an incident right there.
Big battle in the midfield, and Jose Longa is right in the thick of things in the battle for 12th place.
Battle for 12th place, all so tight, especially here in the first lap. We see up ahead the Theodore Burns making a move up onto the inside, going through the chicane, and he makes that move up for 8th place. And up ahead, that's Duke Camaro getting a bit loose, and he comes back onto the track, and 2 more cars going off into the gravel trap.
Cars are losing the back end through the final corner. Still cold tires, don't forget. Hadn't even completed 1 lap, and maybe drivers just getting a little bit too greedy on the throttle pedal.
This car has downforce, but they still have to warm up the tires, and these V7 tires are temperature sensitive as James J. Pinkster has swung around the outside of Omar Baja. James jumps up 4 spots now, and he is one of the biggest movers and looking for that podium spot, and that's Edward Samborski right ahead of him.
Yep, Edward Samborski got a nice little train forming up behind him, but in a good position right now to pick up a podium. Tim Delisle, Greg Olsen still lead the way.
Here's a replay of that start, and you can see Samborski backed up, and the cars behind him just got absolutely destroyed. Amal Yanez, one of those cars, and it looks like multiple teammates were involved in there for Positive Sim Racing. Here's Manuel Domingo getting a nice little run to the inside, but a little bit too much spice right there. Gets the back end turned around as they go through turn 4. And right in front of him, one of the Downforce Racing cars of Daniel Campos, I believe. No, that's Steve Honan, actually.
Is that Steve Honan?
Around.
Yeah, he's in the pits. He's not going to be picking up any bigger points tonight. Taking a look, what are our fastest laps so far? 31.28 coming in from Tim Delisle. He's got himself a nice, what is that, a 1.2 second gap to Greg Olsen.
That's the craziest a lap one is just unable to write on what's happening here. But Delisle, Olsen, Samborski, Pinkster, Baja, your top 5, the biggest movers so far in the race for Hard Charger are Duarte Pierres and Rob Bohr, as they are tied at 11 overtakes from that crazy start, and they're sitting in 9th and 8th place right now.
8th and 9th place, Duarte Perez and Robert Boer. I just want to take a look at how Mr. Shane Russell is doing. He's down in 13th. Don't forget, your current Division 2 leader. And he is on the back of Luke Groom and Manuel Domingo in the battle for 11th place.
Yeah, Paul Ilbrink, 2nd place in the overall championship, is behind him in 15th place. And he's going to be losing a lot of ground to Tim Delisle up ahead.
He'd also just keep an eye on Rob Boer, still on the back of Duarte Perez, and maybe if he can get a good run coming through these final sequence of corners, he could have a little think about making a move down into turn 1.
Samborski holding that inside line and just letting James try to catch up, but this is the part where Barcelona gets the moniker that it's very hard to pass here because all these medium speed corners in these high downforce cars, so much dirty air is being thrown up to the car behind them. It's very hard to keep pace with the car ahead of you. So all you have to do is stay in the draft and hopefully use your DRS at the right time to catch up to the car ahead of you. These Formula 3.5 cars have DRS. They have 8 uses of it, and they can use it whenever they want.
Yep, as you mentioned, the 8 uses of that DRS, so you do have to be that little bit more tactical with your use as opposed to something like F1 where you can just whack it open on whatever straight you please. So maybe we can keep an eye on how things stand. But as you mentioned, Edward Samborski sitting in 3rd, trying to hold James Pinsker behind him.
Oh, look at this move right now. Luke Groom trying to hold it on to the inside as he's battling with Fabio Del Camaro, as Fabio grinding on the curb, Toby Hawk pro skater style, 50-50 grind. Wicked move, but Luke Groom swings it on the switchback going through the chicane, and Luke Groom holding it on for 13th place as Paul Ilbrink has joined him, as we now have a 3-way fight for 13th.
Yeah, Fabio Docamo looking for the inside now as we head down towards turn 1. And he'll be able to pick up the move fairly comfortably as the number 3 And that's the number 3 of Paul Ilbring having a little look, gets shoved out wide on the exit of 2, but side by side now with a Luke Groomer through turn 3. It looks like he's got the move done, but can Luke Groomer have a little think about going the inside for 4? He's got to take a look, and down the inside he will go, but the door will just get slammed just that little bit shut by Paul Ilbrink, who will hold on to the position.
Yeah, Luke Crew might have some floor damage after that massive, well, full grind of that giant old sausage curve. We got a car going slow. That's the 21 of Daniel Campos, who, well, he's already a lap down, as we're looking at Theodore Burns and Duat PS, 2 drivers battling out for 7th place.
Also, keep an eye on Manuel Domingo and Reynaldo Augusto, as they're having a little battle of their own. And Shane Russell just behind them, currently sitting in 12th place.
Sorry, minimap hops up on the screen. You can see where all positions of the car, and we got some tasty battles going on out through the track as we ride on board with Duarte PS in this battle for 7th. As, ooh, Dora, what an exit for the Portugal driver. And it looks like James J. Pincer is closing in on Edward Samborski and is looking for a strike right now.
Is indeed, and let's see, can he find the move onto, I should say, can James find the move on it to Edward Samborski? Knows to tell as they make their way down towards turn 10. James has a little think about looking for the inside. Samborski wide, and that's got to promote James Pinska up into the podium positions, and with another 17 laps to go, still a while yet, but James Pinska in a fantastic position for now.
That was a great fake out by James J. Pinsker, and Samborski gets collided with the sausage curve, but he's got bounced off the track, and Samborski is going to be going slow as Rob Crouch is closing in on him now.
Yeah, Rob Crouch closing in a battle for 4th place, and everything's just starting to go wrong for Samborski. Just needs to take a minute, calm down, get back into the groove, and start pumping in some quick lap times. Otherwise, he's just going to drop further and further and further down the order.
Edward Samborski, one of the more consistent drivers of the series, not really finishing up there in the podiums a lot, but 4th place and 5th place is the position that we usually see him running in, and the amount of improvement we've seen from him in these past 3 seasons have been insane. And we got a big spin up ahead. That's Rob Bohr.
Rob Bohr has, well, chucked it. And how has he quite done that? That's the gravel. That's the exit of turn 4, I believe.
It's going into turn 4. Oh, no. I'm having Mercedes 2016 flashbacks.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Not good for Rob Bohr there. Where has he dropped down to? He is down in 16th at the moment. I wonder if there is any damage on his car. His front wing looks like it's in a decent shape, but obviously might have some floor damage to that Renault 3.5.
Surprising, these cars are actually one of the most rigid cars here on iRacing, not using the new damage model. They're very rigid, so you can bump into them, and you aren't going to really get a wing damage as much, but you can't really bang wheels with them either. As Duarte racing down the straight, DRS open for both drivers. Theodore Burns around the outside. Duarte looking down to the inside. Now's the switchback. Theodore Burns now has the inside, but Duarte has had great exits right through turn 2, and he swings up there into 7th.
Yeah, great move from Duarte up into P7 now, and can just start to climb up the order some more. Duarte having gained 12 places from the start of the race. Started all the way down in 19th. He's got Omar Bahar up ahead of him. And let's see if he can close the gap on to the American. Only a couple of seconds separating the two of them.
See drivers using all the track, getting into the gravel, kicking up some dust. So we look back up front with Delisle and Olsen, the two teammates starting to separate from each other. And just look at the pace that Tim Delisle is setting. 138, 138, 135, 135, 134, 38. New fastest lap for Tim Delisle. And I think we're going to get another one right now.
Yep. Now let's see.
Oh,
Tim
no.
Delisle, what is it across the line? Well, not quite enough. To be fair, though, he's only 1.5 tenths down on his previous best.
And still a tenth faster than his teammate Greg Olsen right behind him.
Yep. That being said, Greg Olsen doing a good job, still within 2 seconds of Tim Delisle, and the two Aussies can work together just to try to stretch their lead. Greg Olsen already has a 5 seconds of a gap over James Pinsker, who we saw overtaking Samborski after Samborski's sequence of mistakes in that final sector of the circuit.
James separating himself from Samborski safely in P3, but I think James always wants a little more. I remember his first win last season, his first win on broadcast too at Spa, and he was so overwhelmed that he just wants more. And after that win, I've just seen him just improve so much. Also, little shout out to some of our little chatters in chat. Cedric Bill, if you were wondering where he is, well, he's in the YouTube chat right now. Wasn't feeling so well about this race, so he decided to hang out here with us. And I believe we also have Cameron Schilling and Ivan Miskelik also in chat.
Interesting. Fair enough. Just trying to see what are the next battles. Maybe Theodore Burns and Manuel Domingo can produce the next battle on circuit. Less than half a second separating the two of them as here we go. Domingo having a little look down the inside. And will make the move work on to Theodore Burns. That is up for P8.
Gloriful move right there for Manuel Domingo. But Theodore Burns is always one for a fight.
We'll be having a bit of a battle between Paul Imbrink and Shane Russell. And actually, Shane Russell, he's off into the gravel on the exit of turn 4. So I'm guessing there was some form of contact between himself and Paul Imbrink there.
We'll take a little replay of that. Russell just in the dirty air of Ilbrink, and he just goes wide and hard into the wall.
Not what you want to see at all.
Look at that. Up ahead, Theodore Burns right behind Domingo. He's got the lap car of Campos behind him. And, well, this is actually a very packed part of the track. It's pretty much a train from 7th all the way down to 9th. As it's Perez, Domingo, Burns in a nice little train. They have Augusto right there and the lap car of Campos behind him. But Bernardo Augusto has to deal with that. Has to deal with Campos before he can join up the train and ride it.
Yep. Just trying to see how everything could potentially be affecting the championship. Of course, with the way iRacing is, it is your best result from each 4 races that count towards your points. And quite a few drivers have already, of course, done races here at Barcelona, with us being towards the end of the week. And well, Tim Delisle you never know. With him pretty much winning every single race, he might always be on the shout to picking up some big points, especially with having such a high strength of field as we are seeing here tonight.
Definitely is. Manuel Domingo starting to pressure on Pierre's right ahead. Pierre's hardest charger in the field by a mile. Only guy to get 10 plus spots up from where he qualified. He's currently sitting at 12 places gained.
Your other big movers are, of course, Reynaldo Augusto and Paul Imbrink, gaining 6 and 7 places respectively. And Paul Imbrink, second in the championship, he really wants to be gaining some extra points. And he currently finds himself almost within a second of Reynaldo Augusto. Maybe we could see, our championship contender looking to try to find a way into that top 10. He's got Theodore Burns just ahead of Reynaldo Augusto as well.
Certainly can. Sits Domingo and Pierre's nose to tail, front wing to gearbox, racing here at Barcelona. As we enter halfway through the race, say have a drag race down the back straight. DRS not being used for both these drivers. You can tell if a driver is using DRS if that little slit you can see in the middle of the rear wing, if it is closed, DRS is activated, and it works just like it does in real life. It's just iRacing saving some space on your computer just by covering that little slit up. But it works just like it does in real life. It's just the way that it's presented. And if you can see through it, then DRS is not activated. And let's go on board, Manuel Domingo.
Let's ride on board indeed. He's getting very close. Moves over to the inside. I think he's got the move pretty much done. And there's going to be nothing that Perez can do about this. Domingo moves up into 7th place.
Textbook move right there for the Carbono esports driver. Up ahead is James J. Pinkster. He's pretty much sitting in no man's land right now, but that no man's land is filled with a little bit of the bubbly as he sits there in 3rd place, up 5 spots where he qualified. And he sees a nice, easy race in the future with 10 laps remaining.
Yep, all he has to do is keep it on the circuit. Although that being said, Edward Samborski only 5 seconds behind. And if we just compare their last laps, actually, never mind. James Pinsker is pulling out by a few tenths per lap. And speaking of some slow laps, Omar Bahar 32.0 last time round. And Manuel Domingo will be really starting to, or I should say, yeah, sorry, Manuel Domingo will really be starting to close in onto him now.
Paul Ilbrick started to close in on Reynaldo Augusto, and the battle for the top 10 between these two drivers. DRS is being used by Augusto to try to defend from Paul Ilbrink. So they're having a drag race here at Barcelona. Paul not going to be able to pull up inside of him, but he is locking in the sights of Augusto ahead of him. The Radicals online driver. We've seen him pull off these great moves throughout the field time and time again.
Indeed we have, and he is going to be looking to do a few more of those tonight. Still got a way to go, as we mentioned, 23 lap race on our hands, and we have, well, I think we're about halfway point now.
Oh, we've already passed halfway point.
Oh yes, true.
2 laps ago.
We're close to the halfway point, I feel. Anyway, Paul Imbrink got Reynaldo Augusto up ahead, and you can see Theodore Burns just past him. And he just needs to work out, you know, how do I find a way past where? Whoa! Oh, well, that's how you get past Reynaldo Augusto, when Augusto loses the back end on the exit of turn 10. And I guess you can say Paul Ilbrink was putting on the pressure.
The pressure was certainly applied, and Augusto, unfortunately, spun up the rear wheels, and he just lost it right there.
Yep, well, that's going to make things just a little bit easier here for Paul Ilbrink. Now he's got Reynaldo Agos, pardon me, he's got Theodore Burns up ahead. And the gap is not that big. He can just start to reel in Mr. Theodore. Paul
Yeah, Paul
Ilbrink.
Elbert sitting
Oh,
in
sorry.
10th place. Now, next target is Theodore Burns.
Currently, only Manuel Domingo and Paul Ilbrink of these their top 10 are on the cusp of losing some iRating, so they're both going to just be pushing maybe that little bit extra hard, or maybe they'll take this as just a damage limitation race.
Yeah, Ilbrink's just getting a great old run through these corners. Already in the draft of Theodore Burns, and it feels like it hasn't even been a lap yet, but he's already on the gearbox of Burns right now. And he's
Well, it's
closed in 2/10 in 3 corners.
He's closing in hand over fist onto the American. Paul Ilbrink makes his way through the final chicane. All about getting the run now through the final corner. He's right on the tail of Theodore Burns. And here we go as we start the next lap. Lap 16 of 23. And Paul Ilbrink moves to the inside of Theodore Burns. How late on the brakes? Well, late enough, and that's Paul Ilbrink up into 9th place.
Ilbrink doesn't even look stressed about it. There was no fighting for that position from Theodore Burns. He knew that that position was going to come and go. Paul Ilbrink is giving us a wonderful show and a great charge for the Hard Charger Award today, because ahead of him is Duarte PS, the current leader in the Hard Charger category, up 11 spots. If Paul Ilbrink can pass Duarte, they will be tied at 10 overtakes apiece.
Yep, also, just a quick update, Manuel Domingo was able to find a way past Omar Bahar, who is really dropping down the order, and Duarte Perez is going to be the next who's going to look to snap up Mr. Bahar.
Now Perez sitting behind Omar Baja, being affected by that dirty air, as Paul Ilbrink is not being affected by that dirty air. And this final sector here at Barcelona is so tricky and crucial. These curbs will destroy the underside of your car and upset your car as well if you tap them. If you've been watching the Formula 3.5 series, you know these cars do not like bumps. The suspension is super rigid, and it likes to bounce.
Well, I was lucky enough to commentate on the Formula Challenge back in the Dallara F3s here at Barcelona earlier in the week, and they didn't like the curbs either, so definitely watch out for those curbs. So many of those yellow sausage curbs are dotted around the track, and if you just put a wheel on it, it can just throw your car completely to the wind.
And if it's on a new damage model, your wheel completely off of your car.
Even more entertaining.
And if you're in a supercar, a barrel roll.
Now, Omar Bahar, he's setting in mid-32s. He did a 32.29 last time round. He just really doesn't have the pace, and even his fastest lap at 31.3, he's over half a second slower than pretty much everyone around him. So Omar Bahar he hasn't had the pace, and he just really seems to be struggling here at Barcelona.
Well, Omar was involved in that opening incident. He took a nasty lick, so he might be struggling with some side pod damage. He was in that massive group that got involved at turn 3. I don't see any damage on that car, but you never know what the underside of these cars look like unless it goes up in the air, as we got a drag race right now. Duarte PS looking down into the draft, now swinging out to the outside as Omar Baja defending as hard as he can. Side by side they go into turn 1. Pierre's swings it around the outside, and for the switchback, the number 20 car. And Omar Baja in the number 17. Baja switches back on him. around turn 3. Now it's Baja
Oh.
and Pierre's side by side heading into turn 4. These two are going nose to tail with each other, and they're still going at it.
I tell you what, Paul Elbring is watching this. Oh, but look at the switchback. Perez goes down the inside. He pulls off the old debate, and down the inside will Perez go. Has a bit of a moment with the back end, and he's going to have to slot right back in behind Bahar. Great stuff at the moment from the American, but look at that. Paul Elbring right on the tail of these two now. We're in for a 3-horse battle for P7.
Paul Ilbring has got the best seat in the house right now. He can sit back, watch these two battle, or he can make this a little bit spicy here in Spain and make this a 3-car battle with 4 laps to go here at Circuit de Barcelona de Catalunya.
Yep, as you mentioned, not long to go at all. And there you can see Paul Ilbring right on the back of Duarte, Perez, and Austin. Do we know how many DRS usage each of these 3 drivers have available to them?
Unfortunately not. We don't have that data for us right now, but I can tell you Pierce is 1 more less, as both him and Omar Baja are using DRS right now, and they're going one more time for another battle side by side around turn 1, and Omar Baja got contact as around goes Paul Ilbring, but he saved it from getting contact with the wall. Got a little bit of contact on the curb, and the back end got kicked out. Omar Baja made contact with that sausage curb as well. As let's take a replay from Paul Ilbring's eyes. Omar Baja sitting down to the inside, just makes a little bit of netcode contact, and so Ilbring looked down to the inside and then just cut into that red and white curb, and the car just got so upset. And unfortunately, that battle is not going to happen for Paul Ilbring, and he drops all the way down to 12th place.
Rare mistake.
9th.
Rare mistake from the Dutchman. He pretty much had a P7 in his grasp, but he just gets that little bit too eager with the throttle on the exit of it too. And my God, does it cost them?
It cost him so much. As we look up front, Dual, Olsen, teammates, dominating fashion. Started 1 and 2, still 1 and 2. And Greg Olsen's actually starting to catch up to his teammate right here, and we might have a 1-2 battle. Greg Olsen's been more consistent over the long run than Tim Delisle, as he might be saved his tires for most of this race.
That might have indeed. Practically identical lap times from the 2 Australians at the front. James Pinsker in a pretty lonely 3rd place right now, 6 seconds down on Greg Olsen, and then, well, a very nice, comfortable 9 seconds ahead of Edward Samborski. Baha falling back from Duarte Perez. And let's see if Theodore Burns can actually close into Baha and maybe see a late battle for 8th place.
Now, those 3 guys been very close with each other. So we keep our eyes on this battle for the lead, and a perfect 1 minute 30 flat lap time for Tim Delisle. He spotted Olsen in his mirror and said, okay, you had enough look at my rear wing. It's time to say goodbye, and he's turned on the jets.
I think he heard you, Austin. You know, when he said Greg Olsen starting to close in and Greg Olsen being more consistent. Delisle said, wait. Hang on a second. Just wait a minute. There you go. Here's my new lap. Fast lap of the race. At the end, I could have gone whenever I wanted to. I'm just being nice and calm and consistent.
Well, that's known as a commentator's curse sometimes. And sometimes it works in favor, sometimes it works against you. It's probably always going to be the opposite of what I'm saying.
Yep. Well, let's see if you can drop in a few more commentator curses before this race is done. It's still got 2.5 laps remaining. Tim Delisle leads the way from Greg Olsen and James Pinsker. Edward Samborski in 4th place ahead of Rob Crouch. I tell you what, Austin, James Pinsker, his name is really tongue-twisting me tonight.
Yeah, James J. Pince here. It's not like what he usually goes by is gamer tags, also known as Smeesh, or sometimes his other jokier names, aka the Soviet Lolbus.
Wait,
See,
what was that?
it, one of the races I commentated on, he entered under the Soviet Lolbus.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I couldn't keep a straight face that entire race.
Enough. Rob Crouch is only just over a second behind Edward Samborski, and maybe we could see a late charger from Mr. Rob Crouch. He closed in by almost half a second that last time round, but with only a couple of laps remaining, I don't think that's going to be enough. Omar Baha, he's been doing a decent job after getting passed by Perez. He's been able to stay within that kind of 1 second area to Perez and stopped Theodore Burns from closing within 2 seconds of himself.
Yeah, Theodore, Luke Groom, and Jose Pellegos Longa. Jose had a great run at Circuit of the Americas, but the start of this race, unfortunately, was involved in that massive incident. And this being his home track, he was looking for a great start, but unfortunately, not coming out right now. But he is looking to snipe that 13th spot with 1 lap to go, as it's a white flag here at Circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya for the Irish Formula 3.5 Championship.
Tim Delar still leading from Greg Olsen. They've got a whopping 7-second gap to James Pinsker, but Luke Groom and Jose Langa, they are looking very, very feisty in these final moments of the race.
Yeah, it's getting absolutely spicy between them. And we know Jose, he loves to send it, especially on the last lap. We'll keep our eyes on Tyndall and switch back to them as Jose took a look down to the inside, going to this very tight and tricky chicane as they go rocketing onto the front straight.
Yeah, but Jose Langa on the back of Luke Groom. What can he do? He's closing. Surely Luke Groom will go defensive. No, Luke Groom says I'm far enough ahead. Oh, really late dive. Jose Langa looks down the inside. There's almost contact between the two of them. But Luke Groom doesn't even bat an eyelid, and he'll hold on to P13.
The American Nerves of Steel as we switch it over to the one, the only, number 1, Tim Delisle. One last time through the chicane and one last time through the final turn as he starts pole, fastest lap, and takes the win here at Circuit of Barcelona de Catalunya. It's a 1-2 for Positive Sim Racing and a new fastest lap.
I mean, Greg also got a 30.04 on the previous lap, and Tim Delar said, no, I've got even more in the tank, but James Pinsker picks up a P3 ahead of Edward Samborski. Rob Crouch close behind with a good P5. Manuel Domingo will take a 6th ahead of Duarte Perez and Omar Baha in P7.
And back to this fight for 13th. Just a few more corners. Are we going to see Jose going to try to send something absolutely wild into the chicane? Oh, he was looking for it. Going to try to go for the switch track right now, but it's too little too late as Luke Groom's going to finish in 13th with Longa in 14th. And that's a face of a man who's had a wild day.
Wild day indeed. And, well, you got to feel bad a little bit for Paul Ilbrink. We were about to see an absolutely fantastic battle for P7, but Paul Ilbrink just losing that back end through turn 2. And, you know, we said it was a damage limitation race for him, and it was just another little mistake towards the end there.
This car in low speed corners, it just does something else that you don't expect to do as all the drivers come across the line. Rob Bohr finishing in 19th ahead of Daniel Campos after a nutty race today. Had everything start chaos and battling throughout the midfield. Here are your race results. Take us away, Yusuf.
Yep, so it's Tim Delisle who takes the win ahead of Greg Olsen. A 1-2 for the Australians of Positive Sim Racing. James Pinsker takes a P3 ahead of Edward Samborski with Robert Crouch in P5. Manuel Domingo, he had a good race, gaining 7 places to finish P6, but good races. That's Duarte Perez at 12 positions gained over the course of the race. A fantastic drive for him. He takes P7 ahead of Omar Bahar. Theodore Burns, it takes P9 with Reynaldo Augusto in P10. Fabio Da Cama in 11th, ahead of Paul Ilbrink. He had a couple of moments which really cost him tonight. Luke Groom takes 13th ahead of Jose Langer. They had a pretty good battle on that last lap. Dan Giang takes 15th ahead of Shane Russell. Juan Parada 17th. Danny Calvo 18th with Rob Bohr and Daniel Campos completing the field. Oh, sorry, never mind. Amal Younes and Steve Honan in 21st and 22nd, and they do complete the field.
Yes, they did, but they didn't finish the race. They stayed in the pit lane after getting crashed out right now. Well, next week, we are going to be at Detroit Grand Prix circuit of Belle Isle, and that track is known for its bumps, so we might have a bit crowded commentary booth, as we might be joined by our race winner next week. So let's have him in here. Howdy, Tim. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
We're doing absolutely fantastic. Loved watching your race here today, and you breaking the sim once more with another insane lap time.
Yeah, I did a 1 minute 30 flat, like 000 with a few laps to go, and so I was determined to get into the 129s at the end there, and just managed it. But yeah, like Greg was pushing me the whole way, so I wouldn't have had that pace. Otherwise, I was flat out the whole time. So well done to him as well.
Yeah, you've been out of action for the last few weeks here on Apex Racing TV. There are rumors of you hopping into the commentary booth and hopping into some rounds that you do not want to be. Next round, it is Detroit Belle Isle. Will we be seeing you out there on track?
I think so. Between Belle Isle and Barber, which is the week after that, I'd rather the devil I know than the devil I don't, and I do know the Belle Isle track reasonably well, whereas I've never raced at Barber. So yeah, I think I'll just suck it up and try to deal with what is no doubt going to be a very tough race, especially compared to Barcelona. It's very smooth around here. So yeah, Detroit with all the bumps is going to be interesting.
Yeah, we might be seeing a few cars get launched up into the air. Hopefully it doesn't happen, and hopefully it's not you. But before we let you go and let you enjoy the 1-2 with your teammate, anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, just the team, Positive Sim Racing. Congrats to Greg on P2. And although it looked like his race was filled with drama, unfortunately, just a happy birthday to Jose, who yeah, unfortunately just got a bit caught out at the start there. I'll have to go back and watch the replay, but it looked a bit crazy. And you guys for coverage.
Anytime. The start was definitely nutty as well, but for you and Greg, it was smooth sailing from on. And speaking of Greg, we're going to bring him in right now. Howdy, Greg. How are you doing?
Good, Austin. Good, thank you.
So that race was pretty much follow the leader and try to keep up with Tim. You were applying a bit of pressure near the end, and you were starting to close in on Tim, and I believe Tim saw that and just started to lay down fast slap after fast slap and started to pull away. But other than that, how was that race?
Yeah, it went really smoothly, to be honest. Apart from being slightly slower at the exit of turn 1, which caused Daniel to hit the brakes and cause a big chain reaction from the looks of things. Apart from that, it was a pretty straightforward race. There was heaps of grip, doing great times. Didn't let Tim get away. So yeah, I was really happy with how it worked out in the end.
Well, it's another 1-2 for you and Tim for Positive Sim Racing. Do you think you could continue with this on for the rest of the season?
It's probably unlikely because there's a few tough tracks coming up, but look, I'll do my best. we're always there or thereabouts. So just take it one race at a time and see how we go.
All right, thank you, Greg. Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Positive Sim Racing, all my teammates, Tim, Jose. Looks like Daniel jumped in for this race, but it didn't work out. So bad luck to those guys. But yeah, thanks to everyone at the team for all their help this week, and our sponsors, Z1 Dashboard, JRT, all the rest of our partners, and you guys as always for putting on the broadcast.
All right, thank you, Greg. You have yourself a good morning over there in Australia.
Thanks, Austin.
And we're going to go to the final member of the podium, James J. Pinks here. How you doing, man?
Yes, I'm doing great. Yourself?
Well, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. A wonderful Saturday afternoon watching some Formula 3.5 racing and some absolutely chaotic battling throughout the field. What could be any better?
Good to know.
So, your race, you were sitting in fourth for most of the race, and then Samborski in front of you had a little bit of trouble, and you picked up third, but you were kind of in the middle of that chaos at the start. Walk us through that.
So, I'm chilling in about P8 off the start. Pretty normal start, then just going through turn 2, and then you see smoke, you see spinning cars. I just dived to the outside to try and avoid it, and I got through, and I gained a few places from that. Then, obviously, in the rest of the race, I made a couple of overtakes. I faked Deadwood pretty nicely in turn 10, I think, when I overtook him. And I also did a really nice move around Omar Baha's outside in turn 3. I enjoyed that. Yeah, apart from that, it was a pretty boring race from my point of view. But yeah, I think my pace was pretty good, and it's the second time ever I've been on the podium here, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, we usually don't see you up there on the podium, but it's time for you to enjoy a little bit of the bubbly. Next week is at Detroit Belle Isle. Any plans for that track?
Crashing a lot in practice. Very unforgiving track, that. I'm not sure if I'll even give it a go, to be honest.
All right. Well, best of luck to you next week, and if we do see you on track, best of luck in the race. And if we don't see you, best of luck in the practice sessions and not going a little bit too insane. But before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
No, not really.
All right, get out of here. You have a good night, man.
Oh no, I'll thank Apex Racing TV for putting on a tremendous broadcast. I assume once again.
All right,
and
a point back here.
Yeah, and I'll thank Edward for having a good race, and Omar, and to the people in turn 3 who crashed into each other and not into me. That was very kind. I appreciate the freebies. Yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you, James. You have yourselves a good day, and we have one last final interview, and that is Edward Samborski.
How we doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. Pretty decent race today. I'm really fortunate to avoid that lap 1 incident. I saw a car in front of me, and I was like, oh no, not again. Then I think I missed the mark on the setup there. And guys were flying. Holy cow.
You were sitting in third place for a while, then out of nowhere, James came up behind you, and he sold you a dummy going down to the inside, and unfortunately, you locked up mid-corner. What was your thought process in that moment?
Don't hit the enormous yellow thing on the outside of the corner, or your race is over. Honestly, that was it.
Well, your race continued on, and you finished in fourth place. Like being the most consistent finisher you are, you still sit in third in the championship, and you actually closed the gap to second place of Paul Ilbrink.
Good. Yeah, I've been trying to get some points. I really would have preferred to hold on to third. That would have been an easy, 14-ish or more points. But I mean, I can't be disappointed. This season's been really, really fortunate. I mean, I've benefited at Spa from a massive calamity, and today I avoided it. I mean, it was literally right in front of me. And sometimes on those lap 1 incidents, there's just nothing you can do but hope that you don't get part of it. So I'll take it, right?
All right. Well, next week it is Detroit Belle Isle. How you feeling for that race?
I've never turned in an official race lap there, and we were messing around with it and hosted, and it broke my wheel. So
Oh,
yeah, not exactly my favorite place. So we'll see if I'm gonna run it. I don't know. I mean, fixing the wheel was fun and all. I got to learn new things, but if it happens, 5 minutes before the race, I'll be SOL.
yeah. Well, if you do go into the race, good luck to you. And if not, we'll hopefully see you in chat, and you can keep us company in there.
That's a good
before
idea.
we let you go, before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Thank Downforce Racing and iRacing as always for keeping up the servers and having us dropouts for anything stupid. And you guys for doing the broadcast. This is really fun. It really helps the series, and hopefully people enjoy watching it.
We certainly do. You have yourself a good night, and I'm going to bring it over to Youssef for any closing statements.
Nothing really too much to add. Fantastic race from Tim, Greg, James, and Edward. Was fantastic to watch them out on circuit, and really enjoyed my first time watching the Formula 3.5. But as you mentioned, next up is Detroit, which should be interesting, and a few bumps to take us around as well.
A few is an understatement. It's more like all of them. But thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Apex Racing TV. Either if you're watching up on YouTube or on our Facebook page, we all are very thankful you chose to spend your Saturday afternoon with us. I've been joined by Frederick Nichtel, who's been giving us all these lovely camera angles and graphics up on your screen. I've been joined by Youssef bin Salal, also known as Milky Cereal, and I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.